What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic, Jermall Charlo Parrots Canelo calls Andrade a horrible fighter, but refused $7 million to fight him. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life before riches, huh? That life before riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing. We have a lot to chop up today. All right, we're not going to waste a lot of time in this video. We're going to go straight to the videotape. And so here we go.
What'd you make of Boo Boo Andrade confrontation post-fight press conference at Canelo?
I mean, guys, you know, want clout, want attention. Sometimes it's not good for them, but they still do it. But you know, I mean, that guy's just I don't know what to say about him. I mean, he needs to do things like that to get himself relevant, you know, because nobody cared for his fights. He's just in a bad situation, you know, and then let alone, like Canelo said, he's a horrible fighter. I mean, he's a horrible fighter.
Thanks, Jermall.
You're a horrible fighter. Horrible fighter. Horrible fighter.
Okay, next question.
Just payday. You want payday. I know that.
Okay, there you have it. Okay. We saw Canelo at his press conference, his post-fight press conference after he defeated Billy Joe Saunders. You saw that Demetrius Andrade, you know, confronted him, and Canelo said that Demetrius was a horrible fighter. Okay, and you know, you saw Canelo sitting there looking uncomfortable, ducking and sliding and dodging. Okay, don't want to, you know, trying to duck the confrontation basically, and you know, he basically ducked Andrade in plain sight. I mean, you know, that's basically what it was. So you know, Andrade has been calling him out for a while now, and you saw him call him out after his fight, and you saw Canelo duck him. Okay, then you know, not too long after that, and you know, they did an interview with Jermall Charlo, and we saw Jermall Charlo basically parroting what Canelo was saying and co-signing the duck. Now, you know, it doesn't surprise me because Charlo has been ducking Andrade for years, okay? And so you have, you know, Canelo and Andrade, I mean, Canelo and Charlo both ducking Charlo. So at the end of the, excuse me, both Canelo and Charlo ducking Andrade. So at the end of the day, what we are seeing is a pact between, you know, so-called lions and ducks. Okay. Now, you know, lions don't make pacts with ducks. That's why, you know, I said, you know, pussycats only. Okay. So at the end of the day, you know, we saw that Jermall Charlo was saying, oh, nobody, you know, likes the fights that Andrade does, this, that, and the other. I mean, I don't know if Jermall Charlo don't know what's going on, but I mean, who is he fighting? I mean, you know, the only fight that he really has on his record besides Julian Williams is Jeramichenko, really. Okay, and you know, at the end of the day, Jeramichenko is basically a junior middleweight. Okay, I mean, if you saw that fight between them, Jermall Charlo looked like a giant next to Jeramichenko. Okay, so I mean, you know, to say that, you know, Demetrius, you know, basically is what he's saying, he's not fighting anybody, or you know, I mean, at the end of the day, if you look at the opponents that Demetrius has fought and the one that Charlo has fought, Demetrius has fought the better opponents, the better quality opponents than Jermall Charlo. You know, so I mean, you know, for Jermall Charlo to come out of his mouth and, you know, and talk that, you know, what we just saw on the videotape, you know, it doesn't really make much sense at the end of the day. But, you know, it makes sense if he's ducking Andrade, and this is exactly what he's doing, him and Canelo. So you have the two ducks, Canelo and Charlo, you know, making a pact, basically, you know, unspoken pact between the two of them. They're ducking Andrade, so they agree. Okay, basically that's what it comes down to. Charlo, look like he's trying to, suck up to Andrade. I mean, Charlo looked like he's sucking up to Canelo because maybe he's hoping that he get a fight with Canelo or something like that. But at the end of the day, I don't even know if he really wants to fight Canelo because after this, before this fight between Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders, we heard Charlo talking about, moving up to fight Canelo. Now he's talking about Canelo moving down to fight him or the catch weight. So it looks like after, Canelo went in there and and folded up Billy Joe Saunders like a lawn chair and smashed him. Okay, it looked like not Andrade, but it looks like Charlo was having second thoughts about moving up to fight Canelo now. Now he's talking about Canelo, moving down to at 160 to fight him or fight at a catch weight. Okay, I mean, I don't even know what that's. I mean, if you want to fight Canelo, move up and fight him. What are you talking about moving down? Now, what the hell is this guy talking about? Why would Canelo move down to 160 to fight Charlo? Okay, if you want to challenge Canelo, you have to move up to 160 to 168 to fight him. That's how it usually works. I mean, what is it that you have that Canelo is going to come down to 160 to fight you? Okay, especially when Canelo moved to 168 to to duck Andrade in the first place. I mean, Canelo could have been undisputed at 160, okay, but the only person that was standing in his way of becoming undisputed at 160 was Demetrius Andrade, okay. And what did Canelo do? Did he take the fight with Andrade to become undisputed at 160? No, he moved up to 168 to get easier fights up there. So he's not going to come back down to 160 to fight Charlo when he done moved up to 168 to duck Andrade. So, this whole thing is, at this point, with these fighters and their ducking is becoming, it's coming like a pandemic of ducking. Okay. It's, duck season all the way around. I mean, it's ridiculous at this point. So, I just saw recently there was I think Charlo did an interview where he said that his fight coming up with Montiel, that Montiel doesn't stand a chance against him. Duh. That's the whole point. He doesn't stand a chance against Charlo, and that's the kind of fight that Charlo makes. With people that don't have to stand a chance against him. I mean, we know that he doesn't stand a chance against Charlo. Okay, you don't have to tell us that, Charlo. We know that already. That's the whole point. Okay, so to talk about Demetrius's record when you're fighting a guy like Montiel, who nobody ever heard of, not even Charlo ever heard of him prior to the fight being made. Charlo never even heard of Montiel before they put Montiel in front of him to fight. So, I mean, these guys, I mean, they're not making much sense at the end of the day. Okay, so, what we have, is a situation where both Canelo and Charlo is ducking Andrade, and they're both, trying to spin narratives, to say that say that Andrade is a terrible fighter. We just saw the videotape. I mean, Charlo basically said, he didn't even try to make it look good. He just said word for word what Canelo said. He's a horrible fighter. Like Canelo said, he's a horrible fighter. I mean, this is ridiculous, man. I mean, lions only. What a joke. I mean, these guys, he's a horrible fighter. Word for word what Canelo said, okay? So he's parroting the duck, okay? Canelo is ducking, and Charlo, it was quick to jump on that duck line about Andrade being a terrible fighter. It's a duck line, okay? And, no sooner it came out of Canelo's mouth than Jermall Charlo picked it up and started running with it. Okay, so he's taking his lead from Canelo. I mean, these guys, and then you talk about lions only. Lions don't take lead from ducks. Lions don't make pact with ducks. Okay, lions, are kings. Okay, So what are you running behind Canelo? You know, parroting Canelo and you know, spouting the talking points that Canelo is saying in his ducking of Demetrius Andrade. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, and then you talk about lions only. I mean, lions don't make pacts with ducks. Okay, it is what it is, people. And so, you know, this whole lion, you know, again, I'm gonna tell you, this whole lions only thing, you know, at this point, you know, is a joke. Okay, the only lion in that lions only brand is Jermall Charlo. Okay, he's the only lion I see out there. Jermall Charlo is a pussycat. Okay, a house cat. At the end of the day, you know, meow. Okay, so you know, Jermall Charlo just needs to, you know, instead of talking about the fights that Demetrius Andrade is making, he needs to make the fight with Andrade. Okay, Andrade's promoter Eddie Hearn, you know, had sent an offer to Jermall Charlo, I think about a year ago or so now, maybe a little bit more. And, you know, Jermall Charlo at the time swore up and down that he never received an offer from Eddie Hearn, okay? But now, you know, recently he just came out and admitted that, oh, yeah, Eddie Hearn sent him an offer, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Eddie Hearn sent him an offer of $7 million, I heard. Upwards of $7 million. It might have been more than $7 million, okay? Charlo tried to say that Hearn didn't send him the offer. Hearn showed the proof of it. Okay. Now, almost a year later, Charlo is admitting that, oh yeah, Eddie Hearn sent him an offer, but it wasn't enough. You know, $7 million offer. Now, did Charlo make $7 million to fight Jeramichenko? I don't think so. Did he make $7 million to fight Brandon Adams? I don't think so. Did he make $7 million to fight Kovalev? I doubt it. Okay. So what do you mean $7 million is not enough? I mean, who's Jermall Charlo fighting to make $7 million? I don't think Jermall Charlo make $2 million for his fights at the end of the day. Okay, I mean, I could be wrong, but I doubt it. So if you're getting a $7 million offer to fight Demetrius Andrade, who you claim is a horrible fighter because you parroting Canelo, you claim that, you know, when you say somebody's a horrible fighter, that means they can't fight. So if somebody's going to pay me $7 million to fight a horrible fighter who I think can't fight, I would take that money and go and smash that fighter. But we don't see Jermall Charlo doing that. You know, he's up there talking about, oh, it's not enough. Okay. I mean, you know, these guys have taken ducking to a whole new level. I mean, this generation of fighters, you know, have taken ducking to a new heights. Okay. You know, so at the end of the day, the middleweight division, you know, these guys are not doing much. Most of these guys are waiting around trying to fight Canelo, you know, instead of fighting each other at the end of the day. Now, Demetrius Andrade has called out a lot. He's called out Golovkin. He's called out Charlo. He's called out Canelo. Okay, but none of these guys want to fight Demetrius Andrade at the end of the day. And it's almost like Demetrius Andrade has become a duck hunter. You know, hunting ducks at the middleweight division and above. Okay, so you know, we saw what he did with Canelo. Went in there and told Canelo, you know, I'll fuck you up. Okay, you know, you punk. And Canelo, all Canelo could say was, "Oh, you're a horrible fighter. You're a horrible fighter." I mean, it's ridiculous, man. This thing is becoming a joke now. Okay, so you know, we're gonna see this fight, you know, coming up between Montiel and Charlo and see what happens with that fight. I mean, it's not much of a fight, I would think. Okay, I don't think many people are going to tune in for that fight. You know, like most people don't really tune in for most of Charlo's fight because he don't really fight anybody at the end of the day. We saw him do a doubleheader, you know, with his brother recently, and that fight didn't even do well. I mean, at the end of the day, okay? So he didn't really do much numbers at all, okay? So, you know, nobody is really interested in the people that Jermall Charlo is fighting, okay, at the end of the day. I mean, he's becoming like the silent part of the Lions Only brand. I mean, Jamel Charlo is the one that's, you know, making, you know, noise and doing the thing that needs to be done at his weight at 154 pounds. We see him getting ready to do a undisputed fight against Castano coming up soon. I think it's in July. So, we see Jamel Charlo making moves. Okay, at the end of the day, fighting, good fights against good opponents. And his brother Jermall Charlo is just satisfied to fight, no-name opponents, and just continue to keep ducking real fights. Okay, and just sitting around hoping, I guess, that Canelo will give him a fight eventually, come down to 160 and fight him. Like I said before, before he was talking about moving up to fight Canelo. Okay, I remember he was also talking about moving up to fight Benavidez. Now he's getting a lot of criticism for not moving up to fight Benavidez after he said that he could smash Benavidez, and then Benavidez said, okay, if you can smash me, let's fight. And he basically made a whole bunch of excuses about fighting Benavidez, talking about COVID-19 shots, and the Benavidez is too young. He's not fighting anybody under 25, and he's not going to fight anybody that's not taking their COVID shot. Just pure ducking in its purest form. And we all saw how that all played out. Okay. Now, I'm not going to give him too much, trouble about fighting Benavidez at 168, because at the end of the day, if we want to get real about it, Benavidez don't really have a title up there, so I don't really see the point in Jermall Charlo moving up to 168 to fight Benavidez, even though he claimed he could beat Benavidez, and when Benavidez called him on it, he basically ducked Benavidez. Okay, so in just principle alone, he should have moved up and fight Benavidez, but I'm not going to give him too much trouble about that still, because there's nothing up there really for him to fight Benavidez, unless he's just going up there to prove that he's going to fight Benavidez and then take on Canelo. But he's not going to do that, because when he was asked to move up to fight, when Benavidez said, "Oh yeah, come up and fight me," then he said he's a 160-pound fighter. He's not moved to 168. But again, he's always said that he's willing to move and fight Canelo. Okay, which I can understand that. It's a money fight, payday fight, and a title fight as well. Moving up to fight Benavidez is not going to really gain him much in that sense, except just to get that win over Benavidez, which is a good fight because it's a name fight. It's probably the only first name fighter that he's fought in his whole career. Okay, so he would look good on his resume at the end of the day, but still, he's not going to get anything from it really in terms of status. Well, he does get the status of being able to beat a guy like Benavidez, who was really good, but I can understand his reluctance because Benavidez doesn't have a title, and I think it, personally, I think it's, instead of him moving to fight Benavidez, he needs to, fight at his own weight. Canelo, he needs to fight Demetrius Andrade, or fight Morata, or fight even Erislandy Lara now, who's at middleweight now. He just won a middleweight title recently. So basically what it comes down to, is that Jermall Charlo has a lot of unfinished business at 160. So there's no point in him moving to 168 when he has done nothing at 160. Okay? Usually you move up to fight other fighters when, you have, fight, cleaned out a division, or you have, mostly cleaned out a division, or you're looking for, to move up and fight for a title. So he hasn't done none of that. He hasn't really done anything at middleweight. So there's no point in him moving up at the end of the day. Okay? He needs to stay at middleweight and make the fights that need to be made. And one of the fights that need to be made at middleweight is with Demetrius Andrade, who he calls a terrible fighter, but he's ducking him. And it's not like he didn't get an offer to fight Demetrius. He got a $7 million offer, and he still ducked Demetrius Andrade. Okay? So these guys shouldn't really be saying much. They shouldn't be talking at all, okay, with the record that they have, and all the ducking they have done, and I'm talking about Jermall Charlo, okay? And so I don't know if we're ever gonna see now we're hearing talk about it, him fighting somebody at middleweight, after he fight Montiel. He's been chasing old man Gennady Golovkin now for years. Okay, basically, we know Golovkin is the next champ You know, he's been another guy who's been kind of ducking guys at middleweight, ducking Andrade. Okay, at the end of the day, but we hear that Gennady Golovkin is at least fighting a unification fight in December against Murata. So I mean, you know, you can give him a pass on that because he's actually going to fight a unification fight against another champion at middleweight. Okay, so you know, at the end of the day, I mean, I would have taken that fight if I was Golovkin as well. Okay, I don't really, you know, why not? I mean, it's a unification fight. Okay, so he can take that fight, and then, you know, once he unify with Murata, he can look to see what's out there, you know, in terms of Andrade and Charlo at the end of the day. So, you know, basically what it's coming down to, man, is right now is that Demetrius Andrade is becoming the duck hunter of the middleweight division, okay? And there's a lot of ducks up there, okay? And so, you know, he's on the hunt. And the ducks are flying and flapping their wings, okay? And flapping their mouths too, okay? So, you know, we see what Canelo and Charlo have to say. You know, both of these guys, you know, ducking Andrade. They've been ducking him for years, okay? So, you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. These guys, you know, need to grow a pair, you know, and step in the ring with Demetrius Andrade. You know, Canelo, I mean, Canelo is, you know, a big disappointment in, you know, in ducking Andrade. That was a perfect opportunity to, you know, to make a great fight with Andrade at the end of the day. But I guess, you know, Canelo is up there trying to become undisputed. So his next fight is probably going to be Caleb Plant. If Caleb Plant take the fight, we don't know if that's going to happen, because at the end of the day, you know, PBC fighter like Caleb Plant, they're probably going to want Canelo to fight Caleb Plant. If he wants to become undisputed, he has to fight Caleb Plant, and they're probably going to try to put something in the way of the fight to say that he has to fight Charlo, you know, if he gets Plant, okay? Which, you know, that's the way these guys work. So that, you know, we might not even see the Caleb Plant fight with Canelo at the end of the day. There's no guarantee we're going to see that fight, okay? But, you know, we hear Caleb Plant talking about he wants $10 million, which is reasonable, I would think, okay? So, you know, it is what it is. But, again, you know, the bottom line is that Demetrius Andrade is willing to move up and fight Canelo. And Canelo is consistently ducking him. And you saw the Canelo ducking him again in plain sight, you know, in the broad daylight, you know, with no shame to his game, just duck, 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 okay? And, you know, we saw, Jermall Charlo, basically, who has been ducking, you know, Andrade for years as well. We saw him, you know, co-sign the Canelo duck, you know. So basically, you know, Jermall Charlo